Welcome back to the Wolf of Property and Casualty. I'm your host, Derek Lasniak, with over 15 years of commercial broking experience focused on the middle market, upper middle market, and national account space. The Wolf of Property and Casualty is a practitioner-led P&C podcast. No bullshit. I don't have an agenda. Each and every episode containing real talk. Today's conversation is about declinations. I get the sense in this soft market condition that everybody is saying yes, and everybody is saying we'll do it and we'll write it. But I also have been talking to producers who have been telling me that in these softer conditions and after some fatigue from their buyers over the hard market, that they're doing way more marketing. If you show up with the incumbent who's been taking plus 10 the last 3 years with your client, and now you're at -6 because the tides have turned, a lot of buyers are saying, if they're at -6, what else could I get? Or I love my carrier and I appreciate the -6, but if they knew so and so was at -10, would they go to -10? It's not revenge, but it's also just part of the cycle. And while I think the conditions are soft, I also am hearing, and I also am talking to underwriters, and they're telling me that we're not abandoning our underwriting profile like we maybe had done in the last couple decades for the sake of writing new business. There are certain things that we will not get bid on just to grow like we have in the past. And so it got me thinking, active, more marketing than we've seen in the hard market years. Underwriters telling me they're not abandoning everything to grow. Brokers and buyers are probably seeing more declinations. And what do you do with declinations as a broker? And what should you expect as a buyer when you get a declination? I've got 5 things that I recommend that I used to do with declinations to make even the word no seem like an opportunity to provide value. The fifth one is going to be the things that I think are most important and how you position them with your customer. The very first one is getting a reason for your declination. I have seen all kinds of things from carriers and underwriters throughout my career. I have seen a text message saying, no, we're going to pass on this. I have seen a phone call where we talked for an hour about why the reason is no. I have seen a formal letter saying we decline for underwriting appetite. No's come in all different shapes and sizes. The very first thing you should do as a broker, especially if you have any concern with your buyer or you're a skeptic or you just are afraid of the boogeyman, is make sure you get a formal no. Make sure that the submission was logged and that the no was a no, and that the no is universal for any broker for that policy term. I had a colleague of mine, a partner at the firm I worked at, large construction related type manufacturing account, $2 million, I think, premium deal. He actively marketed, and this guy was one of the best brokers I thought in our entire office. And he got a no from a carrier on a really large deal in the current term. And for various reasons, it was a tough account, really tough exposure, tough jurisdictions. The very next year, that same carrier wrote that account for a different broker and he lost it. And all of the reasons that he was verbally told no, my colleague had not changed from a risk profile. But at the end of the day, there was no doubt that that carrier kind of screwed over our firm. But none of that necessarily was in a formal declination letter where we could go back and say, how come you ignored all these things this year for this agent? It was a lot of hearsay. It was a lot of conversation. And that reminds me of the circumstance. When you get a no, make sure to cover your ass in the current term, but get as much as you can of that no in writing. You're probably going to be able to get a formal declination letter that says underwriting appetite. It's the easy one, pick the box. But you can also say, I'd like to get an email. Hey, can we have a conversation about why it's no? Let's have a conversation about why it's no. And then it'd be okay with you. I don't need you to type it up. I don't need you to have a CYA. I don't need you to do anything. But after our conversation where we go through why you said no, I'm going to just send you an email for my file. I'm going to CC my account manager. And I'm just going to go through the bullet points just so that I have it documented. And we'll talk about why that's important. But you got to make sure that you're getting the carriers who sometimes don't necessarily want to put their butt out there or are busy or see too many submissions. You got to make sure you put some factuality behind the details on why a no is a no. The second thing, number 2, if we could overcome and so, would this be a target for you? And would you be in line with our premium expectations? So once you've established what the no is, this is something that I did every single time I had a no. Whether you got a no for underwriting appetite or, hey, we don't like how they transfer risk within their contract, or we don't like the performance of their fleet, or we don't like the frequency on their work comp, or the sprinkler system's inadequate. The next question I would say is, thanks, I'm going to document that. Now, I want to take you to the future. If we were to change this, would you anticipate that you would be really excited about this opportunity? If we were to overcome these obstacles, would you be excited about this opportunity? If we were able to update that sprinkler system to be in line with NFPA, would this be something that you think you could be competitive with the premium targets that I gave you? That's going to be an important concept when I say how you deliver this to the customer. But it also says, I'm going to hold you accountable. If you're telling me no, then if that no is not on the table anymore, would you say yes? That allows you to get to the point with your insurance carriers where you know if what they're saying is bullshit and they just don't like the account. I mean, insurance underwriting is not a science. There is some art to it. Sometimes they just don't have a great feel, or we got burned by this class of business, or we don't like that jurisdiction, or but by saying if we eliminated this obstacle, would you say yes and would you be in line with the target? Number one, it says, even if you haven't priced this thing out, if you liked it, could you be competitive? Which is an important thing to know even when you get a declination. And then number two, it's forcing them to say yes or no to the real reason if there's something that they like or don't like about this. And then 3 years down the line, when you resubmit this deal and you've overcome that obstacle, you've eliminated some of the things. Now you're saying, I'm not just asking you to send me a declination to cover the markets and cover my ass because I think I might have competition. Now you're saying, hey, look, this risk has changed. What you said no to is no longer the same. I'd like you to take a fresh look at it. And before you just say, oh, man, I saw this submission again, please know with this submission that these three things have changed. I wouldn't waste your time if they hadn't. The next thing is once you've this is number three. If you really want a future with this carrier, you want to keep the door open, or for brokers out there, if you want to look like you're just really trying to be a good partner to your insurance carrier, I love doing this. And we're talking about middle market package lines business. None of what I'm talking about today is applies about monoline shotgun it to 40 markets for your cyber and D&O. We're talking about GL, property, auto, work comp, umbrella. I think it's obvious. But here's what I love to do with the big carriers, especially the stock carriers. I understand your no. I understand you have it for these three reasons. I look forward to seeing if my client can overcome those to put them in a better position for you to take this account seriously. It sounds like you like it, except for these things. In the meantime, as a way to get your organization a little bit of taste about the quality of this risk, and because I recognize that having their name show up somewhere on your revenue sheet might be beneficial, do you think it'd be worth it for me to see if they could participate on the umbrella on a monoline basis? Do you think it'd be worth it for me to submit it to your D&O team, your environmental team? I'm just thinking out loud here. You might not like it for the package lines, but perhaps getting some revenue in the door for Chubb, for travelers might just be beneficial. And you can see that we're serious about this partnership. I specifically did this in the middle market with umbrellas. A lot of times as the umbrella market's been cut, you're forced to need an excess carrier that's different from your main lines carrier to complete your umbrella needs. Hey, as a starting point for this, even though you're not in love with running the main lines because you don't like the property, what about the 5x5 umbrella or the 10x10 umbrella? Maybe we could get that in the door and that might get you some underwriting comfort and that'll give you a reason to look at the losses over the next couple of years before we remarket these lines. What about, I'm not sure that this will make sense, but what about work comp? What if we unbundled this program? Would you like to look at the work comp monoline or the property? I'm just trying to be creative and think of ways where you can get attached to my client because I really think it's worth your time despite you passing on it this year. Now, brokers, you're looking like you're going out of your way to try to find ways. And when they say yes, and this was very impactful with me with Umbrella, there is some value. You're now taking a customer that's not spending any money with that carrier and you're putting them in a safety position, maybe 5 or 10 million removed on the umbrella tower where they're going to have some access. And then when that account comes back in on the main lines, you don't kid yourself. There's power in somebody saying yes or no to an account who's already a client of any sort. And I relish in that. I did that all the time. Number four, never let current loss history be the sole reason for a declination. Brokers out there, buyers out there, if you believe you're not a shitty risk, but you've had a couple bumpy years on your work comp, or you've had some auto accidents frequency, never let loss history be the sole debt reason for a declination. Push that with your carriers. If you believe that you're not who you were, and I believe this, more than anybody from my personal experiences, if you are not to be judged on only your past, but who you can be as the future, then don't let loss history alone be the reason for a declination. Because if all they're saying is, God, your losses are pretty bumpy, all that means is they don't believe that you're a better risk tomorrow. And if you honestly believe that you've made changes, are making changes, or you can be more consistent in your work comp performance, or you've done with things to curtail your auto exposure, do not let loss experience be the sole reason for a declination. Make sure that you are outlining how losses are going to be different. One of the things that I did with my work comp customers were on a bad run, let's say they had higher experience mods over one, I would tell to my carriers that I was marketing to, don't you want to be the insurance carrier that's collecting premium on a 1.2 mod for an account that's about to perform like a point 0.8? We're about to perform like a point 0.8 for the next 3-4 years, and our mod's not going to catch up to it for 3-4 years. And you're going to get the benefit of all that extra premium because you spent the time to realize why we're going to perform that way, Mr. Carrier, Mrs. Carrier. Do not let losses alone be the reason for a declination. Number 5, and this is going to summarize a lot of what we talked about. Why carriers said no in a marketing exercise is your free base, brokers out there. It's your free opportunity to be real honest with your customer and call them ugly. It is your job to do an active marketing. One would argue that it's your most important job as a broker to market your accounts thoroughly. And if you're scared of your customer, which I always was to some extent with a respectful tone, much like you should fear and love God, you should fear and love your customer. If you are scared in normal day in and day out things because things are going good to say, I really think you got to spend the 250 grand on the sprinkler, or you have to do something about cleaning up your auto losses. If that's not something that you want to open up with at your mid-year review when you're making sure they aren't testing the waters with other brokers, doing your job in the marketing is your opportunity to call the baby ugly. And what I mean by that is I used to prepare a thorough marketing table and be very honest and very direct with my clients about why they said no. If you're showing up after marketing to 6 different carriers, 5 lines of core coverages, and you've got the one circle that says quoted and the rest say decline, and you're just going to kind of wing it as to why you decline, or you're just going to talk about it because you don't have it in writing, you are leaving an opportunity on the table and you could be exposed by another broker. Be specific. They declined because your property is inadequately sprinklered and they're worried about a total loss. They declined because they don't believe that the lockout tagout program that you put in place is existent and they think there's going to be a really big potential. They declined because your fleet doesn't seem like it's managed with GPS units. They declined because of this. They declined because of that. Not only have you already done that information because you've taken the carrier to say, if we overcame this, could you be competitive? But you've also put things out there to cover your own butt and to tell the customer, here's the cost benefit analysis of that sprinkler upgrade. Here's the cost benefit analysis of converting your fleet of sales vehicles to reimbursement allowances. Here's the cost benefit analysis. You stink in this area. I've kindly suggested that we got to improve this, but I haven't pushed really hard because I want you to like me. Well, so and so market won't write you because of that. And if you did this upgrade, they would be within our target and they would provide these benefits. This is your opportunity, and put this in writing in a full market table. Because one of the things that your buyer, your CFO, is going to do when they recap with the owner of the business how the insurance renewal went, they're going to say the premium's down 6% or the premium's up 6% for these reasons. And the owner of the business is going to say, did we look at alternative options? Guaranteed. Yes, we did. Here's the list. And if your list just says quoted, decline, 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 the owner's going to wonder, wait, I mean, okay, why didn't they like us? He's proud or she's proud of the business. So why didn't they like us? Put some accountability there, but also cover your butt. Be descriptive and don't just have it verbally. Just like you don't want the carrier's declination to just be a verbal or a phone call, put it in writing. It's going to save you some time and it's your one opportunity in a respectful way when you're doing your job to call a baby ugly when it needs to be called ugly. These are 5 things as you're out in the market that I think about that you should expect as buyers about what's happening in the market with respect to your risk. And then a lot of these for you brokers, using no to still educate and to still provide value year in and year out.